Forever the coach, that's Ken Foreman. It's a befitting phrase for a man whose life of coaching has reached into an 8th decade. Longtime coach at Seattle Pacific, longtime coach for club teams in the Northwest, and now, at the age of 88, a high school coach. That's Ken Foreman. Having spent 3 terms at Seattle Pacific spanning a period of 50 years, he is considered the father of athletics programs at the school. As track coach, his athletes made plenty of history. Foreman coached 167 All-American athletes, 26 collegiate individual champions, 6 Olympians, and more than 50 members of the U.S. national teams. In addition, 13 of his women's teams finished among the top 10 in the country. Foreman also founded the Falcon Track Club and Sports West Track Club. Foreman's Falcon Track Club squad captured the AAU cross-country title in 1972, and he is well known for coaching U.S. Track and Field Cross-Country Association Hall of Famer Doris Brown Heritage, who was a 5-time world cross-country champion in the late 1960s and early 70s. Foreman was named the U.S. women's head coach for the 1980 Olympic Games and served as Team USA head coach at the 1983 World Outdoor Championships. Foreman, an accomplished writer, has been quoted as saying, "We live and work in the athletic domain. What we do is important, but in the larger scheme of things, it is how we face up to the tug of the contest, what we do with our lives that matters most. I think more people fear success than fear failure. Failure doesn't ask anything of us. Success does." Now retired in Hawaii with his wife Denise, Foreman, even still at his current age of 88, coaches high school track and field and cross country. Forever an educator, forever a coach, his impacts on those he taught will last for generations to come. Ken Foreman, the class of 2011. And accepting the award on Ken Foreman's behalf is Montana State head coach Dale Kennedy. And here to present the award after Dale Kennedy's comments is Dr. Ted Bueling, current president of the USTFCCCA. Let's welcome them to the stage.
Thank you, Lewis. I have some comments here in Coach's acceptance speech. It's an honor to be up here and do this for him. I only wish that he could be here, but as it goes here, please accept my sincere apology for not being here this evening. An old athletic injury keeps me close to home these days. I begin by thanking the selection committee for viewing my record as a coach to be worthy of this high honor. And I extend congratulations to the coaching colleagues who are also being inducted into the U.S. Track and Field Cross Country Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Little did I know when I began working with high school boys and girls in 1948 that it would lead to this moment in time. Indeed, I likely would have been lost in obscurity had it not been for the athletes with whom I have been privileged to work with along the way. In 1955, a 15-year-old high school girl came into my life by running 100 yards in 11.1 seconds, barefoot, out of the dark, toward a Coleman lantern on a rain-soaked cinder track. The girl's name was Marcia Cosgrove. She had been seen beating the boys on the Renton, Washington high school track by a teacher who asked if I would watch her run. Although I was coaching basketball at the time and conflicted over the pronouncement by my physiology professor at USC, who said that a female should not lift heavy weights, should not work against resistance, and should not sweat. Yet I was willing to take that risk. The short story is that this child was for real. 2 months later, she held her own against Ed Temple's stable of sprinters at the National AAU Indoor Championships in Chicago. The following year, Marcia Cosgrove qualified for the 1956 Olympic team, and I, who scarcely knew how to use starting blocks, was suddenly viewed as a sprint coach. 4 years later, a college freshman at Seattle Pacific College asked if I would help her achieve her dream of being the best female distance runner that she could be. Her name was Doris Brown, the same Doris Brown Heritage who's a member of the Hall of Fame in this association. In the 1960s and 70s, Doris held nearly every national and world record from 300 meters up to the 2 mile. A 5-time international cross-country champion, a member of 2 U.S. Olympic teams, Doris taught me more than I ever taught her. She made a distance coach of me. In those early years, the only place a female could compete was on a club team in the AAU. With Doris as our anchor, the Falcon Club was highly successful, placing 15 runners on United States women's international cross-country teams between 1967 and 1974. I had been hired to coach basketball and track and field at Seattle Pacific in 1950, and in 1953 we had our first NAIA national champion when Ben Morning outkicked Paul Leopard of Abilene Christian to win the 880-yard event. It was fair to say that we had a highly successful men's cross-country and track and field program during those years. Our women's team gradually became the dominant force on our campus. But it was not all fun and games. The Board of Trustees at Seattle Pacific reluctantly permitted me to work with women so long as I did it on my own time and did not use university equipment or facilities, not even a bag of ice from the training room. When Doris pulled a hamstring prior to the national championships in 1965, I had to massage her leg in a broom closet. The problems in the 60s and 70s for a male university coach who worked with women were pandemic. They spread like a disease. Fellow coaches ridiculed me for working with girls. Even the women who we were attempting to help turned on us. Ed Temple, an Olympic coach, and I were sent by our state legislators to the first national conference on women's athletics, where we were informed in the opening session that our opinions were not wanted, so we should just go home. The formation of the AIW was a positive change, but they too had their problems. At the national championship track and field meet at Boise State University in 1976, a meet referee demanded that they attach tongue depressors to the edges of the hurdles in the 400-meter race to detect and disqualify runners whose lead leg had wandered to the side. And speaking of disqualification, one of our Seattle Pacific runners in the 3,000-meter event was disqualified for patting a teammate on the butt and wishing her well as she passed her by. This is not intended to be a critique of the growing pains of women's track and field, nor is it criticism of the AIW. They did their best, I believe. What I wish to do is offer a word of heartfelt thanks to the NCAA who stepped in 1982, who stepped into the gap and rescued track and field for women, making it the highly effective program that it is today. I am proudly grateful to have been part of the history of women's cross-country track and field. Thankful for all the student athletes and coaches with whom I've been privileged to work, and I am humbled by the honor bestowed by the NCAA coaches on me today. Thank you. A word from me. Foreman has recently written a book called The Coach's Journey, and I'm really encouraging all of you to pick up a copy of that. It's a marvelous book, a great book for us coaches. Thank you.
Thank you.